game, the time is about to begin between Darkwonyx and Kolento. We see a Druid versus Warlock to start things off. The handlock, precisely, for Kolento. Now, Darkwonyx won't be starting on the coin, but he will be having the Innervate, and that's going to be a nice way to start, especially since you have Keeper of the Grove to answer a Twilight Drake.
Yeah, Keeper of the Grove makes a really big difference, regardless of which Warlock he's playing. But he's got another target in this deck now, which is Nerubian Egg. So kind of two things you have to be fighting through. Swipe is a card you want to be using to clear out a giant after you've attacked it for 4, but now sometimes it's going to be having to clear out just a Nerubian Egg token. The Nerubian Egg token. Ugh, I cannot talk this morning. Jeez, Aloo. I like the mulligan on the egg here. I think when you're going with 4 cards, that you can mulligan very aggressively for cards like Mountain Giant and Twilight Drake.
I think if you're going first, you can as well, because you're not obligated to drop something. Because if you're on the coin, there's going to be a time where you're going to have too many cards. You can't tap on turn 3. You might drop something like a Farseer, Ancient Watcher, or the Egg.
Right.
So I'm actually okay with mulliganing hard in both scenarios. But
Right.
I understand that Kolento also likes to open his handlock very specifically based on the matchups. So he understands it very well. And, I kind of just learned by watching him what he's going to do.
He's going to
he gets the Nerubian Egg anyways.
So what do you think is better on turn 3? Do you think it's Egg or do you think it's Earthen Ring Farseer?
I like Farseer's versatility. I think the Egg is, again, the insurance against any kind of AoE clear. I think you're kind of happy if he silences it, too, if you have something like Twilight Drake that's coming up in the works, too. But now that he plays the Harvest Golem, I mean, the Farseer can challenge it a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take too much damage from Druid.
Right. How much does Curve play into him wanting to play Egg the next turn, possibly?
That's true. That's a good point.
Because he is going to be faced potentially with a decision. If this Harvest Golem is able to get cleared, then he has to think about whether or not he wants to use Mortal Coil or whether or not he wants to use a Life Tap and an Egg. Or even the coin, perhaps. But he's not going to have that option. So this is likely going to be a Life Tap Egg turn. Unless he picks
Well, it
up
makes
something
sense to...
Ooh!
a Mountain Giant off the top. That is very nice. But we do know that Darkwonyx has the BGH.
Yeah,
we can just get that out of the way.
That draw is it's one of those double-edged swords where you feel like you're safe, and these big swing cards. This is where Druid ends up seeing its advantage in these matchups, is when it's able to get these huge swing turns. Oh yeah, this is starting off really bad for Kolento, because take a look at his hand. There's not a lot of gas afterwards.
Well,
this could spell trouble.
what does he have? He's got the Nerubian Egg. He's got Taunt. He's got a Silence. Oh, that Mortal Coil. Maybe you double Mortal Coil to dig through, maybe, perhaps? See what you can get.
This is a tough turn to think through. He's got so many options, actually. I don't even think Life Tap's out of the question. Rather than trying to predict what Kolento's going to do, because I've been wrong about it every single time, something that I can do is figure out why he did what he did. His predicting what he's going to do, though, seems to be extremely tough so far. He thinks very far in advance. He's a very conservative player, and I think that conservation is really showing through in his win rate, because this guy has just been winning so many games.
Yeah, he had to go through a really tough bracket. He might be getting more Gosu Gamer ranking just because of how many people he had to go through. Sure, he lost once. But I mean, the amount of opponents he went through, right, to get to this spot. He might win more points than RDU, who's probably likely to be ranked #1 based off his performance. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know the exact rankings, but he does go with the double Mortal Coil play to draw. He gets a second Nerubian Egg.
Twofold effect to Mortal Coiling here. You save yourself 4 points of damage. Mortal Coil isn't very exciting in this matchup. And it also allows you to start developing these eggs, because those eggs are threatened by the big Game Hunter. Because it's just a 4 power 2 health minion that just punches down your 4/4. So it's like you can give him something, I guess, when he gets the Mountain Giant, but you can't give him too much. And I guess the decision to let the big Game Hunter stick around was just going to be giving him too much. 4 damage in addition to potentially taking out one of these tokens.
Darkwonyx picks up Black Knight, which will be very useful later on in the game as well. So he's got his 2 big swing cards that gets the handlock to tilt the matchup greatly in his favor if you can use it to end the game. He also does have lots of direct damage with swipes. If you can just kind of piece together maybe the combo, maybe if he top decked an Ancient of Lore in the upcoming turns, then basically Darkwonyx has everything he needs to respond to whatever threats his opponent can put out.
Yeah, this is another tough turn. None of his plays are like really exciting. Those eggs are kind of intimidating. How much merit is there to silencing one?
I feel like the eggs aren't proactively doing anything. Sure, you're afraid of something like the power overwhelming or even the Hellfire plays that can activate the eggs, but you still have swipe in response to it. So I don't feel like you need to do your opponent any favors by trying to waste some of removal before. Like, who says he even has a way to activate it right now? Okay. Well, I mean, I guess he also improves his board development.
Yeah, I don't mind punching the egg here either to keep it from getting something like a Defender of Argus. Not that that's a big deal, but how much more damage is 2 damage worth in the face?
Not
especially
when he's at 23.
And especially when you've got a slow hand like Darkwonyx does. He's looking to respond some more still. Because notice he's got a second swing card, which is Black Knight. Ancient of Watcher, again, maybe one of these draws that kind of is a reverse good draw, where it feels like it's a really strong play, but then your opponent has the second swing card, so you're losing a little bit more value on it as well. This is it's a tough pan out from Kolento, but that's the power of these swing cards. You life tap maybe?
Well, if he wants to go for the taunt play, then no. But actually, he could still do Sun Fury and life tap.
That's it. Yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
He also can activate with the power overwhelming, which looks like what he's going to go for.
Do you taunt at both these guys, or do you just taunt at the 4/5?
I think the actions are about the same.
Oh, the egg isn't dead yet.
Yeah.
I just, for whatever reason, assumed it. Every time you power overwhelming it, it feels like it trades.
It's just for style points if you want to do it to the left or to the right of the Ancient Watcher, pretty much. But now Darkwonyx gets a Argent Squire.
It's swipe and Druid of the Claw. Better, or maybe even swipe and just hero power with the Argent Squire. Because Black Knight's not too exciting here. You're not really getting a lot of damage out of it.
I mean, you are, but you aren't at the same time, right? The Ancient Watcher is not really doing anything.
Yeah, that's why you're not getting a lot of damage out of the Black Knight. It's just because the Ancient Watcher is just sitting there, and all you have is a Harvest Golem. So if you play Black Knight here, you're losing a lot of its potential value, in that it can unlock a board position where your opponent would typically feel safe. I don't think Twilight Rick's too bad. I think you got a Siphon Soul here. That's a monstrous looking 4/6 right now. Especially when you got this hand.
How badly it wrecks the board, I completely agree. You know, if you want to go for an alternative creative play of like removing it with an Iron Beak out, it just feels like you're being really inefficient just for the sake of putting out a creature versus you can protect your board and perhaps even pick up something better with it with Defender of Argus in the following turns.
And now it's sort of another decision. Does he want to swipe or does he want to use Black Knight?
Well,
swipe
is really versatile, right?
The other thing too is he knows his opponent doesn't have Mortal Coil, so if he Black Knights the 4/4 and then puts his Harvest Golem into the 2/2, the 1 health on the Harvest Golem isn't threatened at all. It's basically just the same thing as the 3 health. I don't know if I like swiping or if I like Black Knighting here better, honestly, because my opponent just Siphon Souled a 4/6, which lets me know that he's kind of struggling to take the board position back. But I think Darkwonyx wants to get actual minion value from this, not just defensive value. He wants to get something that could potentially be threatening him as well.
Kolento picks up Iron Beak Owl. I think he's also calculating potentially what his opponent can do on turn 9 if he could have the combo, and if so, I think he's dead. But I think he's just not going to play around it anyways. He's at this point he's really left with no choice.
Yeah, it'd be pretty tough for your opponent to have the combo in just 3 cards, especially with how defensive they've kind of been.
Oh man!
Wow!
Are you serious? Are you serious? That is really big pickup for Darkwonyx to be able to answer that Twilight Drake immediately. Oh, that is devastating for Kolento. Yeah, I think he has a high enough health It won't matter. Make yourself a little bit more resilient to the AoE. He's silenced your 2/3 anyways.
Paying 2 life for the shield here is absolutely correct.
Oof. Oof.
Wow, these are less than exciting draws.
Well,
and yeah, again, it feels like a good pickup. He may actually need to save this Defender of Argus until the next turn also. And I think that's something he might think about, is how important it is to silence this Ancient Watcher and then taunt it up, or even taunt it up and play the Faceless Manipulator in the same turn. Because if he plays this Ancient Watcher and taunts it up, there's a good chance it just dies, and then Faceless Manipulator can still be stuck in your hand.
But do you have that confidence of being able to survive the next turn, right? Say if he has the Savage Roar, right, does he just die?
The luxury of being able to save it, and that's what he's worried about right now. It's tough to save it if you want to, I think.
If you're really worried about it, Faceless being stranded, then do you play it now with the Ancient Watcher? Just put a 4/5 right there.
I think if you're going to play the Ancient Watcher this turn, and you're going to Faceless it the next turn, that you probably just wait on the Faceless, because there could potentially be a better target for it. But I think he's got to taunt up, and he's going to get the bad news here in a second, because Darkwonyx...
With the Black Knight being there. Oh, second Savage Roar. So that was the right play, because he needed to defend as best as he could. And the Black Knight, it will come out, but it does set up for the following turns where Darkwonyx can end this game.
Yep.
You know, he does have to kind of make a little choice, because he makes himself a little bit more resilient to AoE, or does he go for maximum damage?
Yeah, I think you go for maximum damage. I think if your opponent had AoE, they probably would have played it already. Like, I think he knows he doesn't have Shadow Flame.
Ooh.
Oh
well,
my gosh,
he's
Leroy's not a strong
Shadow Flame.
You know, he's still not out of it. He feels like he's not out of it, but this game, I'm pretty sure, is over. I mean, he'd have to have a really hefty draw here to be able to pull this game out, and otherwise 2 Savage Roars is just going to be too much damage for him to be able to taunt against. So this next draw, if he decides to take it, is going to be the difference in potentially winning and losing this game.
He needs something big, AoE clear, like Shadow Flame, or maybe even if he Giants, even if he gets a Molten Giant, he can't Defender and Faceless. He won't have the mana to do it.
Yeah,
at this
2 Savage
stage, though, what can you really do? You're looking at 9 damage, 10 from the hero power, which means he only needs to draw 4 damage. You just die way too easily into Shadow Flame.
No way.
That's pretty crazy.
He's
got a
Shadow Flame
clear.
I
got a full board clear.
Believe it. That is a huge draw. This game is now turned around. Darkwonyx. Oh my gosh, he picks up Ancient Allure! Are you kidding me? So what looked like a safe position is now completely turned around again! 2 extra cards meaning so much.
Well, maybe he could pick up something nice.
He's got to taunt here. If he doesn't taunt, he's actually just dead. He doesn't know that, of course, but he's certainly got to be worried about it.
I think at this stage you can kind of make a conclusion. Oh man!
No!
And a very nice potential swing has actually ended short. Just 1 Savage Roar. Oh, Argent Commander. He's gonna keep that one away from his opponent.
Yep. This has been a match.
Oh man!
Every single time Kolento went for a play that could help put the board in his position, his opponent
like Power of the Wild, and he couldn't do anything to kill him. If he drew something like Druid the Claw, he just actually dies as well. So Kolento was trying to play as best as he could given the situation, but he had to kind of choose one line, and he ended up paying the price. The Druid Mirror it is. Nice call, man.
Yeah, I think this is fine. He's very comfortable in his play in mirror matches. I like the way he plays them. He knows his opponent's playing token, actually, if he's been paying attention throughout the course of this match. So keeping Black Knight, something that you can often do in Druid mirrors, doesn't make quite as much sense in this matchup because your opponent's going to be taunting so much less often.
Okay, well, Kolento does have Innervate to kind of start things off. Keep in mind that he is the token Druid. It seems like Darkwonyx's Druid is just more standard mid-rangey. Oh, no, he has a token. Never mind. That was
right.
Nimsh that I thought that he was mid-range.
Yeah, Nimsh was... Wow, and now Darkwonyx picks up an Innervate.
Huh.
These players' hands are very similar.
Yes, it was going to be a little confusing, but I like Darkwonyx's hand because he has stuff like Ancient of Lore as well. So as much as the innervates are nice, he's got ways to follow it up, and he's also going to play his curve really nicely. A lot of people might be tempted just to throw out the Violet Teacher on turn 1, but with no ability to kind of immediately synergize with it, and not to mention that his curve might feel even better if you wait a turn. I think I like the ability to pass. A lot of people might just look at it and say, "Why don't you just turn 1 Violet Teacher? You want to put out damage as much as you can, right?"
It makes some sense to turn 1 Violet Teacher, but what he's thinking about is how he actually pulls an advantage in this game. I don't think when he doesn't turn 1 Violet Teacher, what he's saying is that he doesn't anticipate the damage being the difference maker in this game. He anticipates it being a strong curve and being able to fight adequately for board position. And so now another decision he's faced with. I actually really like innervating out Violet Teacher here, because then you have turn 3 Harvest Golem and you have turn 4 Druid of the Claw, and hopefully in the next couple of draws you can pull something out from there. And then you'll even get a little bit of value from your Violet Teacher on the coin.
I think so too, and I think the Druid that can kind of take advantage of the board state early and forcing your opponent to spend their cards a little inefficiently. Say they have to like Wrath and Swipe to kind of clear your Violet Teacher,
Right.
Then you're in a really good, powerful position.
Yeah. Taking his time as always.
Is there merit to pushing out the Druid of the Claw now and then kind of just curving naturally into your 3 and 4?
I think they're sort of there. That was the other thing I was thinking about, is how much, again, but it's kind of inconsistent with the game plan that he chose on turn 1 where he didn't play Violet Teacher, because now all he's doing is making up that damage that he already passed up. But it does kind of it does really change how your draw is going to pan out, though. Like a 2-3-4 is very strong. Like it's a different 2-3-4 is all. I think when he does this, he's trying to get a swipe out of his opponent's hand too, so his Violet Teacher is more safe. That's something else to consider.
Well, his opponent will be on turn 3, so he's got to spend a little bit more than swipe in order to get rid of it. Black Knight draw for his opponent in Darkwonyx. Oh, good thing I guess he didn't put out the in taunt mode.
Well, I say you don't taunt very often, but this is one of the few times you can do it, is when your opponent opens up with an innervate into Druid of the Claw. Oh my gosh, he's picked up a second Druid of the Claw. And if that ends up getting taunted, that could be dangerous, because Kolento's picked up Black Knight. I think you attack here with this Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, I think you lose too much by letting it get swiped.
Yeah.
Don't you?
I agree. I think swipe is a really big risk to take here, because if he does swipe, you're going to quickly lose control of the board. And now swipe
it's not
doesn't do
be
anything.
easy to get rid of it. He has to use something. Yeah, he has to kind of silence and be able to get rid of it. Like Wrath and Hero Power is the only way he can kind of efficiently deal with it.
Yep.
But Kolento's starting to fight back. You know, he started off a little bit slower than his opponent because his opponent pushed out the innervate first, but just like you were mentioning, that one fringe case scenario of putting it in taunt mode and opening yourself up was the key in order to kind of give yourself the initiative.
Yep, and I think the way this game is panning out, the Darkwonyx may feel like he has to taunt this Druid of the Claw. Pretty strong responses here from Kolento, and he's faced with another decision pretty early. Does he want to keep her this Violet Teacher and take it out, but then that opens this Teacher to die to the Harvest Golem? This may be one of those tension turns where he just kind of plays a bunch of minions and sees what his opponent can do. I don't think I like using Keeper here.
I think Keeper is too versatile in what it's able to do. I mean, the 2 damage you might feel like doesn't matter that much, but a lot of times when like Swipe isn't good enough to address the board, but Swipe Keeper can do something. I usually like having it in my hand for that reason.
It's just because of how the next turn pans out too. Like if he uses Keeper and then puts Violet Teacher into Darkwonyx's Violet Teacher, the Harvest Golem just gets to pick off the Violet Teacher. So you haven't even really accomplished that much. You've kind of just you Keepered his 2-1 and then attacked his 3-5 is basically what you've done. Which is a less.
Also, we know that Kolento's answers are much better to Darkwonyx. Of course, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know his opponent might put something in taunt mode. He doesn't know that Argent Commander is sitting in the hand, which is also usually the perfect response. It's the Azure Drake gets Argent Commander, and the Argent Commander gets Keepered.
I wonder why he did that. It's a peculiar play. I just need to stop trying to predict what Kolento does, because he always does the other thing.
Well, sure. No. I think it's an interesting conversation point, because I know that guys like Strifeco, his teammate, always says that the earlier you have an opportunity to drop a Harvest Golem that doesn't instantly die, then it's just a really good opportunity to take because Harvest Golems get worse over time unless you're able to immediately do something very weird with it, like Power of the Wild in a late game scenario. And then that applies the same concept to the Haunted Creeper. So Kolento must have a very specific game plan, but I understand completely what you're saying.
Yep. So notice that Darkwonyx has charged the second Druid of the Claw now, which means there are no more taunt targets, I think, in his deck. So Black Knight is basically a 6-mana 4/5. And I don't think Kolento can really know that, so he might be holding on to this for a while. But I like the charge here from Darkwonyx because, again, the taunt leaves him so vulnerable to Black Knight that it can just swing the game out of control. So leaving your guy with 2 health instead of leaving your guy with 6 health and vulnerable to a card like Black Knight, I think is a better play. He also takes a 2/4 off of his opponent's board immediately, which is important in a matchup where your opponent's shown Violet Teacher.
How terrible does this feel, by the way? Playing Argent Commander into a field that has Death Rattle summons?
Well, I mean, he picked up Savage Roar now, so his opponent's down to 19, and he's got quite a few minions on the board that can be pressing for damage. So I don't think he feels too bad about it right now, honestly.
Kolento picked up a very nice second Force of Nature, though, and that allows him to go for a clean board clear without sacrificing what he has on the board. Yep. And he has the ability to kind of put something back on his opponent.
So now, Kolento has the initiative, but Darkwonyx has a really strong response with this Ancient Allure, and potentially even a Keeper if he wants it, but I can't imagine anything other than Lore coming out this turn.
See what he draws. Very good card. Power of the Wild might not be bad either.
Second power might come in. Ooh, that's not a strong one right now. This is sort of the blessing and a curse of a Token Druid, is when it starts to draw cards like this, and it's late game. I mean, I think Kolento realizes that this Black Knight's not going to get any value. You know what? If he draws Savage Roar, though, this game can really turn around.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with these minions that can summon something afterwards. The following turn, he might be able to just kill him if he top decks Savage Roar, which he has done in previous series. It's a good point.
I think this game has come down to a point where neither player has profitable attacks on their opponent's minions, and they kind of just got to start slugging it out. Wow, and a return Argent Squire. But he's got plenty of other options.
There you go. RNGesus is treating everyone fairly.
What do you think about Azure Drake, Argent Squire power, and just start doming?
I mean, you have combo, right? So if your opponent can't kill you the following turn, you might lose to just a Savage Roar, though.
So 4, 5, 6, 7, 15. You lose to Savage Roar and swipe that way, and you also lose to double Savage Roar. You might lose to double Savage Roar either way, actually. 12, 13, 14, 15. His opponent would still have to have more damage after that. Darkwonyx is going to continue to play it safe, though, because if he gets enough minion pressure on the board, something else that can end up happening is he just has an overwhelming presence for his Force of Nature combo.
Yep.
So I think it wouldn't surprise me to see him play it safe this turn.
Well, let's see what he gets off the Azure Drake. Maybe he can get something useful. Oh, a swipe would have been good if it had the mana curve to be able to utilize it.
Yep. I like Power of the Wild here, and he's probably going to attack this Black Knight here. This prevents him from dying to a lot of different combinations.
Well, Force of Nature and Savage Roar still could be what the doctor ordered.
Spell Power Swipe.
Oh, man. A Spell Power Swipe. I didn't even notice that.
Oh,
that is pretty devastating. A Wrath also.
Really big board swing.
Good Lord. Are you kidding me? That's pretty ridiculous. Kolento will be able to completely wipe it, and he won't lose too much. And in response, he's going to be able to kind of pressure his opponent back.
Yep. Something Kolento's got to think about, too, is how he chooses to take this shield off. Does he take it off with the 1/2 and then Spell Power Swipe afterwards? You'll get a couple of 1/1s, but then you're vulnerable to swipe. Or do you use the Harvest Golem? And I actually like that he's making the heads-up play with the Harvest Golem, because now he's not going to lose his 1/1s to the swipe, which actually I think is pretty important. Wow, and now Darkwonyx down to 15 and facing down a big board.
Wait. Innervate? Does he have... Wait, okay, oh my goodness, because that's 14 plus the 3. Yeah, 17.
He's a few points short. I think he's got a swipe here.
He can use the Innervate to go for a full board clear, too.
Oh, wow.
Keep it the Grove, and then, yeah.
I don't think he's going to, though.
No.
He's going to save that Innervate, and he's going to... Because here's the thing, Kolento feels like he's kind of safe at 19 because Darkwonyx has only got 18 points of damage. So if he can put together a big board, it could kind of reverse kill him because he's got Force of Nature, Savage Roar, and then Power of the Wild for 4 more damage, and that Keeper's still there.
Okay. Well, he opts to kind of keep a little bit of his health and not use his Innervate. Blood Mage allows him to Wrath pretty strongly, but I think there is merit to just drawing deeper into your deck.
That's what he's going to do.
Okay.
That extra point's still mattering, I think, quite a bit.
Does. Well, I guess he's doing only one thing this turn.
Yep, he's got to trade down that minion. He's at 18. Oh my gosh, Darkwonyx is 1 mana. He's 1 damage off. He's got
1 damage off, unless he gets. What if he gets second Savage Roar though?
Uh-oh.
Oh wow. Oh, that's so close. He doesn't have the mana to do it.
He can set up.
But the swipe allows him to almost go for a board clear.
Well, he can just face his opponent with everything, and then hope that it works out for him, which is what I think he's got to do. We saw him with we saw Nymphs with a similar decision earlier in this tournament, and he opted for a safe play, and it didn't end up working out for him. In Darkwonyx, I don't know if he's got any other play other than swipe his opponent's face here. That draw is pretty big, believe it or not.
Holy crap! That is just. This is just so swingy, back and forth. The swipe pickup is really big, but it doesn't put Darkwonyx out of the woods because the opponent still can draw.
Kolento's gonna have
that
2 draws.
Savage Roar.
Kolento's gonna have 2 draws for it.
One of them. We're about to find out. Oh, he does have it!
Gosh!
He gets it!
Are you kidding me?
Kolento will tie up the series. Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
And you say the Argent Squire sometimes is kind of useless late game, but in this scenario, it's stuck just long enough to end the game for Kolento. And that is vindication for all this. And whether or not this is going to be Hunter or whether or not it's going to be Mage. Most likely Hunter. Oh, it's the Mage.
Wow.
Okay. Take back what he said. You know, he might feel like the Giants Mage makes it really difficult for Druid to deal with. By same concept of what Druids usually struggle with handlock. If they don't have BGH, then it's very difficult for them to deal with big minions unless they have some kind of way to immediately respond to it with a big board or removal plus whatever minions they have.
Yep. And look, Kolento's already got Keeper of the Grove for this Doomsayer. The end is not coming when he says it is.
Huh.
You know, it's kind of funny, like the Keeper of the Grove is just like, shut up, dude. And the Doomsayer's like, man, what was prophesizing? Is that the word?
Prophesying?
Prophesying?
Yes.
Prophesying the end of the world? I don't even know.
Well, like, how do you even go back and face your cohorts afterwards, right?
Yeah.
It's just you're the Doomsayer that cried wolf.
Oh wow, that's not the guy you want to be.
No,
Doomsayer's not even really that good versus this hand. Honestly, look at it. You're just gonna kill my minions, are you? Yeah, I'll have more minions. Don't worry about it.
It's true. There's just gonna spawn. It's gonna be a 6 minion or 5 minion board after you Doomsayer it. All right. Well, Darkwonyx has the ability to just again draw, put himself at 10 cards the following turn.
Wow, Mountain Giant's gonna come down really quickly. Kolento's got a pretty good hand there, though.
Do you think he might feel baited to use the Keeper on the Giant?
Possible. Oh, jeez.
2 Giants.
That is a second Mountain Giant. I don't know if he plays the Mana Worm anymore.
Yeah, because then the Mountain Giant
It's still gonna
cost
cost 5
next turn.
It's gonna cost 5.
No, it'll cost 4 the following.
It's gonna go down to 4. I think it's still fine here to play the Mana Worm if you want. It's pulling heat away from your Mountain Giant.
Okay, well, let's see what Kolento does to respond to it. Well, he could just power the wild clear.
Yeah, he's got enough damage to kill it if he wants to.
actually really nice to be able to deal with giants effectively. But then what it does happen is that it's essentially like that this mountain giant had taunt or wind fury times 1.5 where it was able to attack everything. And that takes a lot of heat away from Darkwonyx because the token druid wants to put pressure on the mage to force the hand. Oh, he's going to use the Ancient of Lore immediately. Ooh,
Yeah,
this is a really gutsy play.
Whoa.
Super
Those are
gutsy
two
play.
pretty big pickups.
You know, he's going
He's
to
actually
play...
threatening lethal next turn.
Yeah, he's going to play consistent to how Token Druid wants to just push damage and force Mage to be able to respond to it. But now Darkwonyx is going to be able to freeze his opponent's board and start whacking away. And now he has two Mountain Giants to deal with.
Is threatening lethal. He's got 16 points plus Fireball and a ping. Or
well,
plus. Wow, this
that
game
escalated quickly.
I don't want to call this game too soon, but I think Kolento just lost the game.
Oh man, can he silence his own minion and do like Savage Roar? No, that doesn't do anything.
I think he's out of it. I don't see a way out of this right now.
Oh my goodness! And the gamble did not pay off whatsoever.
He could draw like Naturalize from his Azure Drake.
Wow. I expected a way more passive game from Mage and a much more responsive game from the Druid. And all of a sudden, we've gotten to the point where this game is over on turn 6.
It's just been the complete opposite of what we anticipated.
What's happened? This is again sometimes the life of Kolento too, or got players like him where you think a little bit too far ahead of, or maybe a little bit too in depth of what you have, and sometimes at face value, the best play, or not even the best play, the correct play is just to play very obvious.
Yeah, I think he still played correctly this whole way through.
Sure, you can make it
just unfortunate. Yeah, it's just unfortunate your opponents had the perfect range. I mean, Darkwonyx needed 2 Mountain Giants and into coin Frost Nova. I think that Kolento played this game really well, and Darkwonyx he had the draw. I mean, respect, he played his draw really well.
He had to have Fireball to finish it off, or even Frostbolt Ice Lands, and he has 2 Fireballs for good measure.
Just in case. That's the quickest control.
It could be. Kolento's on his last strike, and Darkwonyx is on the verge of going to China. Let's find out what happens here in game number 4 with the WEC qualifier. Now, Darkwonyx does open up on the Giant, which is very nice. We'll see what Kolento's able to kind of respond to it. Does he have something like Peacekeeper, Humility? I don't even know if he's running BGH. Maybe if he has BGH. I think he does have BGH, so I'm pretty sure I saw it yesterday.
Really considering the Spellbreaker. When he keeps his Spellbreaker, I think he wants to use it on an Acolyte, and also potentially to unfreeze his minions. So I actually don't mind the keep on the Spellbreaker. I think it's actually a pretty good play. It also silences Doomsayer.
It's so interesting how Mage feels like it did get tackled indirectly by some of the Naxxramas cards. There's so many silences now that's trying to target the Naxxramas Death Rattles.
Right.
And that really works against the freeze, as well as the fact that you have minions that linger after death, and that's against like the AoE clears with Blizzard and Flamestrike and Doomsayer.
Yeah, it's sort of like all the silences are like they're hate cards on these cards that have such strong death rattle effects, and so the splash hate is kind of going over and hitting cards like Acolyte of Pain. And even Doomsayer. Doomsayer is kind of like a death rattle effect. It just kills itself. What if it was?
That is true.
What if at the beginning of your turn it just killed itself and then it had Death Rattle destroy all other minions? How busted would that be?
That's
like,
that's
I'll kill his Doomsayer. Oh wait, it blows up all my minions.
Took me a while to think exactly how that would pan out, but yeah, that'd be really imbalanced.
At some point in development, it played that way. You can just tell.
Unfortunately for Darkwonyx, he didn't get any card draw, and that's usually the best way to activate the Mountain Giant. But unfortunately, he won't get it by turn 4. Maybe turn 5.
This is a really weird draw here from Kolento because it's like he's not going to be using these Wild Pyromancers and the Consecrates. It's hard to use all of them in the same game. It's like they're all combos with equality, and then sometimes the Wild Pyromancer, a combination with like Holy Light or Coin or whatever, can help clear up the board. But Wild Pyromancer doesn't do a good job of that in this matchup. So I'm curious how he's going to try to use the effect of those cards here.
Yeah, in this scenario, it's kind of equality is the mutual friend of Pyromancer and Consecrate, and they don't really talk much otherwise.
That's a good draw.
Yes, so especially to shoot through some of the minions, like the big giants and whatnot. But at the same time, you also have to be careful because as much as equality is really good to push through, in the end, those giants aren't the only win condition of the mage,
Right.
and you might be weakening your own board. But at the same time, because you do have those heals, you're able to combat the freeze. So,
Ooh, an
like you
Archmage
said,
is
it's
picked
really
up. Speaking of other threats, now Archmage, I imagine he's going to be holding this Archmage with this Ice Lance and this Mirror Entity for pretty much the entire game. He's going to need a couple of Fireballs to help fight through these Holy Lights and these Guardian of Kings that are going to be in Kolento's deck. A very important card in this matchup.
Let me think.
Do you just... He can Consecrate, trade in his Drake and Elven Archer, or he can choose to use Equality.
Mm,
I think I like Equality more.
I think so too. I think what is really good about playing the equality here is, like we said, eventually the board's going to be building up bigger and bigger, and it's very rare for him to drop more than just like these one giants at a time. And you can kind of force things like hero power, anyways, on these minions. And eventually it gets to the point where you might equality, and then you just set up really nice for like a blizzard, just to be able to wipe everything on the board.
Safely gets the Ice Block developed under no threat of that block getting popped whatsoever.
Okay, Senjin. That 5 health is really annoying for Mage to deal with. It's very nice.
And these 1/1s are still going to keep getting churned out. Darkwonyx is going to want to find something like Flame Strike pretty soon.
He does have Frost Nova, which is another card that often is paired with the Archmage, just to push it out on turn 10 and get a Fireball.
Oh
A second
gosh.
Molten Giant as well.
Curious how he chooses to ping here. You know, he can send a pretty big message to his opponent if he pings this 3/5. He's kind of like, hey, I got Flame Strike.
What to do?
Play more stuff, please. But he doesn't have Flame Strike, so would that slow Kolento from playing any threats?
I feel like it wouldn't, unless if he have more 5 health creatures, I think it still wouldn't disincentivize him. Like if he had something like,
What to do?
I don't know, like a Sunwalker, I think he'd still be inclined to play it the following turn. But he is going to go for the sell.
Yeah, I like this a lot. This is also this is a twofold effect. It's also in anticipation of drawing Flame Strike. If he draws it here,
Yeah.
it's pretty tough for I think for him to be in a losing position. But this Azure Drake may not come down now because of that ping. Look at this. I think it's pretty tough to play the Azure Drake here, unless you just really want the extra
Unless
card.
you want to
that bad.
cycle. Send your hero power pass. Did you think it was better to save the Frost Nova? And just kind of minimize that? It's basically a gain 8 life with that Frost Nova.
Yeah, I think it is, and because he wants to get low enough that he can start playing his Molten Giants. Like, actually, he might be able to play one here and then start Frost Noving and kind of go from
True.
there. But the thing about it is he didn't want his opponent's board to build up too many threats. Wow, he picks up a Mountain Giant, too.
He can Mountain Giant, Frost Nova, and then Mirror Image. But then the Mirror Image saved with the Antonitis instead as well.
And his opponent's used an Equality already, too. I wonder how much merit there is here to risking your Ice Block getting popped.
I think with no Ice Block guaranteed to follow up, or no follow-up way, like you don't have something like Alex, I think it's too much. He chooses to save the Mirror Image, which I think I agree with.
Here's a weird play next turn. If he can... This is going to sound really weird, but this is just a suggestion thing. We'll get to that next turn and see what he draws first. Because Kolento's got a couple of options here, too. How much weight does he put on just putting damage on his opponent right now? And can he potentially silence anything to make a difference? In this turn, I think the answer is no.
This is a really tough position if you're Kolento.
Yeah. He does, because the other thing, too, is if he uses his hero power, his board's actually going to be full. So he's not going to be able to play a silence afterwards.
The only way is to suicide by playing a spell first, killing off your token creatures, and then trying to play something. I was thinking about that because I was like, what if he draws like Kodo and Aldor? And it's like, he doesn't have space. And he doesn't have the mana to play like Holy Light into Stampeding Kodo with the Aldor.
Let me think.
Well,
I don't know
time's
what to
running
do
out,
here.
though. Kolento has to make a choice. I think equipping the True Silver Champion is pretty safe.
Yeah, I think you just gotta
it's
press
kind of like
damage.
along the MO.
Setting up
Not
his
gonna
damage
overkill.
potential next turn. Okay,
Yeah.
so now here is my weird suggestion. What if you Frostbolt yourself to get both of these Molten Giants down,
Oh
and
my
then Frost
God.
Nova?
So you're down to 1 HP. That gives you 2 Molten Giants for 1 mana. That's 4. And then you Frost Nova the rest. And then the following turn, you have like Antonidas double
Antonidas.
mirror image into
Yeah.
a. What? That is crazy. But then the Frostbolt with the Icelands is also a really powerful initiator as well.
It is.
And then, what if you're overextending into equality? You do that cool creative play all the way into equality, and then it's toasty toast, lights out.
That's the main consideration here.
Okay. I like using the Icelands here as well to kind of burst through because he does have the second mirror image.
He even holds the mirror entity. It's like, you want to attack one of these giants with your True Silver Champion, you got it. Oh, Tyrion! Can that possibly help you right now? Because your opponent can ping the shield. You're gonna lose
I think
You're gonna
so.
lose a charge on your True Silver as well.
And you just attack with your True
I think
Silver.
I think you got to go for it though. I don't think you have another option.
For justice.
No, I think any other thing is way too passive. You try to go for like a Holy Light play. You're just taking damage in response if you don't have a way to kill off these giants. So he's gonna play his Tyrion and pass and see what his opponent can do. Darkwonyx top decks a
gosh.
Fireball. Almost certain his second Molten Giant comes out too. That's also something pretty clever that he's kind of positioned everything. So now he's sold that he didn't want to overextend into equality, but now he sees that his opponent doesn't have it, certainly.
Right. If his opponent doesn't draw it, it's just, I mean, he's good to go. He doesn't have another Frost Nova though, but he's got the Ice Block down. Yeah, I don't. This is really rough.
If he pings, he only has mana to drop 1 mirror image, but that's assuming his
Right.
opponent doesn't have a concentration to burst through.
Yep. He's gonna use this Fireball here too. Keeps health on his giants and actually puts down a few more points of damage. I don't think he needs to even
Okay.
play this other Molten Giant, honestly. I think he just dropped Mirror Entity.
You Frostbolt? Frostbolt might be a little excessive, but it might get the damage he needs done if he doesn't have the mana otherwise the following turn.
I like holding the Frostbolt. Not only because you have Archmage, but also because Ice Lance is still in your deck. So it's 4 extra points of damage.
But
Wow,
he's gonna
go for it though. And Kolento's gonna
opponent-
need some help.
Yeah. Well, he does have consecration, so he can pop it this turn.
He needs to deal with
believe
board
so.
position though. He's only at 4 life. Oh, Kane's not gonna do
Kane.
it.
Is this
Okay.
it?
Well, if he consecrates, he loses all of his 1/1s.
Oh my god, he can't even effectively chew through because of the Pyromancer.
Oh
So
my
he can
gosh.
put the Giants at 5 health. He can trade one of them in for it.
I don't think there's any way Kolento can win this
He
game.
has
with
to.
this-
He has to draw a Drake. He has to use a Drake to draw into equality.
Oh, that's his only way.
The
He would-
Drake into equality, and then Holy Light himself. That's the only way he can survive this next coming turn.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've seen him top deck before.
That's the only outer I see. But of course, this has to. I mean, I think he knows this is what he has to do, but he's just trying to calculate if there's any other alternative. Because wait, what if he silences his Pyromancer and then consecrates, and then could he trade that way?
So he silences, consecrates, 2 damage, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's a few points short on the second giant then.
Ah, that's so tight.
So then the way he would win is if his opponent had actually no damage. And then he still hasn't popped the Ice Block at that point.
Oh, he's going for it. Okay, well, his opponent doesn't actually have the damage.
So he's going to clear out one of these giants. And Holy Light himself. Darkwonyx actually needs another point of damage here too.
He does. He needs one
But
more
he's still got
damage.
his Ice Block.
I don't know how Kolento can expect to win from this position. Doomsayer draw doesn't exactly help Darkwonyx, but he can put himself in a really good position to win with this Archmage and the fact that he's going to draw a Fireball with it. Oh man. Can't believe he didn't draw 1 point of damage to be able to help his case.
I think you just ping your opponent for 1.
I think that's almost too good to pass up. I think the decision is whether or not you want to put another giant, but I think you have so much damage already. You have a fireball guaranteed. Another Holy Light would actually put him out of range, so I think you ping the face. There's no necessary need for Doomsayer.
I don't even think you need to play the Molten Giant.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, he's going to play the Molten Giant if he does that.
He really values his ice block as much as he can.
Weird. Maybe he's not going to play the Molten Giant if he does. I don't know. I don't even know what the purpose of that play was.
Well, what I liked about pinging the face is that it puts him out of range. Like, if he Holy Lights, once again, he's short of damage. Because he knows he runs 2 Holy Lights.
That's if he Holy Lights and clears his board, by the way.
Good point. Not to mention that there's 2 or 3 really big creatures coming up that he has to deal with. Still needs to hit that equality.
Yeah, he's going for it. Can Kolento draw equality and stay in this game? Holy Light!
The
That's
second
not
Holy
gonna
Light.
do it. But he still has Azure Drake.
He still has Azure Drake, and he needs to
but then
kind of
he
draw
loses.
big here.
No, because then he loses to the. He loses because he can't cast Holy Light afterwards.
Oh my god.
Because he doesn't have the mana.
I think that's it then. Unless Kolento has something that's game-changing right here. Oh, it's a Sunwalker. That series is over. Darkwonyx is going to China alongside RDU, and Kolento will fall here.